this is Liz. Welcome to my little urban homestead and welcome to Fabric Friday. This video may be going out late because I'm nursing a bad back at the moment and trying to take it easy. But I was making clothes last week and some of them, especially the leggings, were made from stretch fabric. And from those, I have made a pair of knickers. Yes, they are big, and for two reasons. One, I'm of that age now where I prefer big knickers. And two, I've got a big bum. But you can do this without a pattern. Get some, in my case it's this brown paper. You can use old wallpaper, old lining paper, whichever you've got. You could even stick some photocopy paper together, printer paper. Get a pair of knickers. I'm showing you with this pair because they've never been worn and I've only just made them. I did this several years ago to make my pattern, but I'm just showing you now. Right, find your sides, put the sides together at the top. Now this is the back, so we want it fully opened out. Now we take this line here as being, this is where you would put it on the fold, and you draw. This is a gusset, so you draw from there. You wouldn't even have to, just take it near the edge. Allow yourself seam allowance if you want. I haven't got seam allowance on my pattern. I add it when I cut them out, but you have to put it on the edge of your paper, the gusset lined up with the other edge, and draw round there. And so I'll do just that, draw round there, and there's my seam allowance. I'll remove these afterwards to show you. And you come up to there, join those lines, and you come up to there, join those lines. Now you've got to remember as well that you're going to fold over the top, so allow for that. Now that's your pattern for the back. You've got your seam allowance in there where the gusset goes. This, done the arrow the wrong way around, never mind, goes on the fold. You can draw the lines better or cut it out better. You can add your seam allowance as much as you want. If you want to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance, fine, fair enough. 1/2 inch seam allowance, fine, fair enough. But just go round it, marking your seam allowance, and a little bit for a turning at the top. And that is the back of your knickers. Do exactly the same but with the front half of your pair of knickers, and then cut them out. What's left then, just turn this around, is the gusset. Now do the same again, fold it in half, completely in half, put it where it needs to go, because this is going to be your full line, and draw around it again, adding a little bit on from the gusset as a seam allowance, and the same on the other side. And what you will end up with is what I ended up with a few years ago. Now, at the time I wasn't using this brown paper, I was using old wallpaper. That's the pattern for the gusset, and as you can see there's the full line, but there are no seam allowances on mine. I've shown you adding seam allowances, but you don't have to add them on your pattern. You can just cut your seam allowance out. So there's the front, there's the back, and now we choose some fabric. Now those ski pants that I made last week were made out of this satin stretch fabric. So as you can see, there's a fair bit left over. I can get a pair of knickers out of this. So that's what I'm doing. I'm putting right sides together. It'll be better go from that side. Make sure your stretch is going to go across your bum, because there's no stretch, well there's a little teeny bit that way, but you want the full stretch going across your body. So that is where I want the back and the front and the gusset, and I'll show you all them. Now I'm going to pin them on and cut them out. So here I have the pieces, which is the front, the back and the gusset. Now you also want a gusset liner, which is any other bit of stretch fabric. So I've got a load of this white that I can use. So I basically cut out exactly the same size, but we don't need that just yet, because the first thing we need to do is we sew the front to the back just along there, and then we do the gusset rather to the back, and then we sew the front to the gusset, and I'll show you when I'm at that stage. So there I've sewn the front to the gusset and the back to the gusset. Now you lay it with the wrong side down and roll them up a bit, so you have your seam there. Roll the back up, so you've got your seam there. This looks rather strange. Let's move it down so you can see. It does look rather strange, but it is what's necessary to get this gusset on. So you find your front and your back, and you just put it on your seam. And then just sew exactly where you've sewn before. On the front of the gusset and the back gusset. Now I've actually used my overlocker serger and serged these two edges, because it neatens them up, and I think it looks a lot better, more professional. So that's what I do. But you can, if you haven't got a serger overlocker, you can easily zigzag it. Zigzag is possibly the best stitch to use for this stretch fabric. Also, I have got a stretch needle in my sewing machine. I haven't on the overlocker, but I have in the sewing machine. And it isn't a case of you can pull the needle very long. It's designed so it'll penetrate the fabric, stretch fabric, better than normal needles would do it. So once you've sewn it, that's what it looks like, your two edges. Put your hand in the gusset and pull out the front and back, and as simple as that, you have the outside, which is nicely finished, and the inside nicely finished. The raw edge is inside. Now all we do is sew the sides up for the front and the back, and then it'll be done. And again, I will use my serger because I find it so much easier to use the overlocker serger on stretch fabric, and quicker. And there we are. I have serged the side seams together. I think it's a lot better, but if you haven't got an overlocker, which I haven't always had, I used to zigzag a seam and that was it. I've serged around the legs. Now if you have no serger, just turn in and just zigzag around the edge. This is if you're not putting elastic around the leg, because I don't bother, because this material is stretch. It's just bulk there that can actually show, so I don't do that, and I have no problems with them at all. But there are several ways you can actually do the band. You can do it as per, I think I showed you on adding the elastic. There's different types of elastic you can get. Yes, while I've been doing this one that you've seen, I've been doing another 2 pairs as well. So you can see how quick it is. But I've got some bits of elastic here. Right, this is a thin, you can fold over the elastic, which is fairly soft, and you can put that in the same way as we have done. You can, the same way that I did when I showed you about fitting elastic. This is a lot. It's nickel elastic again, and can you see it's got a lacy edge to it, so you can actually fit this around the top. You can sew a hem and fit it around the top. You can just make a casing and thread some of this through, so you can use whatever elastic you've got at hand, but I think I'm going to use this pretty one, so I'll get it sewn on and then show you. As I say, I've decided on this pin with a bit of lace on the top of it. Now I've divided my knickers into 4. But you've got your side seams, so you basically find halfway point there for the front and for the back. On your elastic you get the amount that you need, so it's going to be nice and snug around your waist, and then sew it together in one round circle. Then pull it out and you can find the halfway mark. Put that against your pin head and your halfway mark should be there. And it is. I have actually used an air erase pen instead of pins because this is thin elastic. So what I'm going to do is sew it onto the back. Sew it onto the right side. So those 4 points that we found on the knickers themselves and the elastic, I am pinning that in place on the right side and making sure it isn't twisted or anything like that, because I don't want it twisted. Hopefully you can see. And then I'm pinning it in place. I actually find it easier to put on elastic using the serger, which can be done even though it's got a cutter on it. I've not done it on this thing before, but that's why I want it. So I'm going to stitch it on, and I'll bring the camera over to show you what it's like doing it on an overlocker. Now I'm finding the edge, the back edge, I'll leave my pin in just to hold it, so I'll start slightly the other side of it. And make sure that the fabric is higher than the elastic and just slowly slide it in. And when it's caught, that's when I can start straightening it all out. So with it being stretch fabric, I stretch both the fabric and the elastic and take it along slowly, because you don't want it to cut the elastic, just the edge of that fabric. And as you can see, it's just cutting a sliver of the fabric, but it's holding all of the elastic in place. Let me just pin out. But if you are doing this method for the first time, then just take it slow and easy. And we're nearly all the way around. You see how quick it actually is, and it'll be really secure. Now these won't cut too brilliant, but never mind. because the serger takes care of it. As you can now see, I've serged, overlocked, so I'll take it back to my sewing machine and just put a thin line down there, and it'll be really nice with a little bit of lace showing. I've done a little running stitch, well, no running stitch, the 3-step zigzag that's on the sewing machine all the way round, and that's one way to finish it off. And as I say, if you want to do the legs, then do them exactly the same as you did the waist. That's one way of doing it. This is that fold over elastic, but I haven't bothered to fold it over. I've just sewn it on, turned it over and sewn it down, and that again will do for a waist. To show you another way is I serged, overlocked my edge, and then as you can see from that side I run a stitch all the way round to make a casing, but I left about an inch gap at the side, and in that I put some elastic, and you can see the elastic is inside, and that will also work. Do a casing, put the thin elastic in. So that's 3 ways you can finish them up. So, but them are really nice, and I'll be able to wear these when I'm wearing the ski pants, and because I don't finish the legs up, I don't have it pulling it in, so there's no extra bulk there to show through. Thank you.